This week I'm going to show you how to paint this lovely pot with some really sweet leaves and a nice little shadow. So grab your paints and let's get started. So team, let's start off by drawing our vase. Now the top bit has to have a little bend to it, and then I'm just going to come down in 2 brackets. Imagine you're drawing a bracket around a word, and then all I want to do is do 1 curve on the left. It's easier to flip my paper around. Try and do that same curve on the right. So let me show you that. That's not too bad. And then I could just do another curve just to finish it off on the bottom. So then what I want to do is add 2 handles. So again, think like C shape. Do the same on this one. Try and get them roughly the same. And then there you have your vase. So let's try and get a bit of color on the bottom. Now I'm going to use my gold. And it's picking up a little bit of blue in there, which I was actually going to choose anyway. I want to make it nice and thin. So if you're not quite sure how that looks, just do a little test batch, and it's a little bit dirty. So I'll just add a little bit more of the ochre, a little bit more water, make sure it's still nice and juicy. There we go. That's a little bit warmer. So I'm going to go on the bottom here. Wow. Whoopsies. Well, my gold is turning green. Oh dear. I'll just try and blend that in, you know. Go around there. And then definitely should have used a cleaner palette. Let's just add a bit more gold here. Now I want to add a bit of texture, so I'm just dabbing some of that color on. I'm not worried too much about the 3D-ness. I'm just trying to get a bit of blue. So I'm also just going to add a couple of dots of water, and you see that paint just rushes by. So I'll let that dry, and then I will come back to it, see if it needs another layer, see if it needs a bit more of the goldy. Let's do some of the leaves now. So let's pick some greens. Now, most palettes, I would say, don't pick it directly and leave it as it is. Always add a touch of blue, or maybe even a little bit of black. When I say a little bit, like literally the tiniest bit of black. And then let's just have a go at that color. So that's quite nice. It's quite an average green. It's not too offensive or too garish. And all I'm going to do is paint a few stems. So let's have these going in all different directions. I've got a few different heights. Get a little one in there, and a little one in there. So from here, team, let's use the same one to start. Now, this technique is, you might want to practice it first. I'm going to go straight for it so you can see what I'm doing. So first, I want to pop my brush on the stem, pull back a little bit. So I've drawn a little line, and then I just push down, and then I stop pulling, and then I lift up, and that paint should just fall into the end. If not, you can give it a gentle push. So I'll do a few on each stem. I don't want them to overlap just yet. I would rather they dried in between. But just be really random with them, because we're not going to have each stem having the same colors, the same amounts. Maybe I'll have some falling a bit more flatter. And you see, I just push that paint into the end to make sure it spreads all the way. So just let that dry in case our next layer we want to add some that overlap, and we'll come back to this in a couple of minutes. Once you've done that, team, let's make another version of green. So I'm going to try this green and this blue. This is a lovely combination, so you can't see that. So I'm going for the navy blue and this royal green, and this is going to really pick up the contrast and make it look quite different. So you see the difference between these 2 greens is lovely. It makes it really dynamic, makes it interesting, and I'm going to do the same thing again. So it's just like a little tap, and then a little, I didn't need to push most of them over, but do for that last one. So do the same again, team, and we'll probably do a 3rd layer. And feel free to add some little ones at the tip of your sticks as well, so that they don't look naked. And then, of course, let that dry. All right, and let's try one more leaf. So I want to go for a light one now. So I'm going to go for a lighter blue, but also loads of water. I want it to be really, really light. So I'm just going to move that to one side and add a bit more water. And then same thing again. So just go in the gaps, try and think about what looks balanced, what might need one. You see it's super, super light, but it will show. So don't feel like you need to add a bunch more pigment now. Just think, right, let's add this on, and then things always look better after it dries. So let's go ahead now and finish the painting. When I say finish the painting, I mean finish the leaves, because it's not quite done yet on here. So this, I actually quite like the texture on that. I'm going to leave it for a second, and I'm going to try and create a little bit of a shadow on here. So I want to use a bit of that blue that I had before and really dull it down. I'm going to add the smallest amount of black just to change it from a color that we had in there to a little bit grayer. And then all I want to do is think my light source is going to come from the right. So I'm going to start by painting the left, go across there, and then I'm just going to paint that in between. So you see that naturally gives you a bit of a gradient. And then inside here, I'm just going to paint on the inside and the bottom. Here, I'm just going to paint on the inside because there'll be a lot of light coming through. And then I just want to add a final bit going across there. Whoops, blurry. There we go. I think whilst that's drying, I'm going to do a similar thing on this side. So I'm going to get this golden color, and I'm probably just going to go pure gold here just to pick up the color a bit. It's a bit dull. And then I want to first of all make sure it's dry. So I'm touching it to see if it comes off on my finger and if it's cold. If it's really cold, that means it just needs a little bit more time. But if it's similar temperature to the paper, then you're absolutely fine. So I'm going to go down the left. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom this time because that's where it's going to curve over. Because it's a small space, I'm just dabbing my brush on a rag that I've got to the side of me, and then I just want to blend that over. I'll probably leave it like that, keep it a bit sketchy. If you want, you can add a shadow underneath, but we need that edge to be really dry. So I'm going to give it a second, then I'm going to add a bit of a shadow. All right, so this is dry now. I want to go for a shadow. Now, typically people think shadow is brown or black, but actually I want to make it a little bit more colourful. So because we've used some earthy colours, I am tempted to go for a dark blue and a dark green. So really make that dark there. And I think this is going to look really nice. Now, we have to be quick with it. So as soon as we add a little bit of paint, we've got to work fast. So I'm going to have my water ready. Deep breath. And then make sure this is nice and fluid as well. It just gives us a bit more time. So I'm going to go underneath first. I'm just going to extend that out. Clean the brush. Dry it a little bit. And then just try and do the same again. Clean the brush. Dry it. And then let's pull that shadow, blend that in. So there we have it, a really sweet plant pot with leaves, and hopefully it's not too stressful to paint. So well done, team. I'll see you next time for another lesson.